Welcome to the Kidlit Club with Sally Rippon and Adrian Beck. On this episode, Nat Amor. The Rippon Report returns and we check out Serena Getty's cartooning.
Welcome to the Kidlit Club and great to be here with you, Sally Rippon.
It's always fun to be with you.
Great. Well, we've got an excellent, massive show coming up,
Yes.
As you just saw. But I wanted to ask you straight off the top, this is pretty deep.
Okay.
I know you expect sort of deep stuff from me these
Yeah,
days.
absolutely.
What influences your creative work? What influences your writing? Tell me. This is a question that I've been thinking about for a while now.
Yeah. I would say most recently it's probably political climate, which sounds a really dull topic for kids' books. But I guess I feel a fascination in trying to find ways to explain what's going on in the world in a language that children can access. So there are so many topics that kids are bombarded with that could feel terrifying, confusing, such as climate change or what's going on in the political world with all the horrible things that are happening around the world, and trying to find a way to guide children through that. So I do find more and more, first of all, friendship was definitely, and still continues to be definitely, something that drives me, because I think that's the most profound thing that brings us hope through all of this that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
But then how do you navigate the world that is so frightening and bombarding for children? Because there was a time they could be quite innocent to that, but now every time the news is on, which is 24/7, and they have access to social media much younger. So I guess trying to find a way of helping them through it so that they don't feel completely like all hope is lost. Yeah.
Which is you can absolutely see that in Polly and Buster.
Yeah, and I think definitely in Polly and Buster. But I think even I've been recently asked to write a new Billy and Jack book.
Yes, I did hear
for
about
the
that.
Australian Reading Hour, which will be coming out soon.
Yes.
And even that, I found myself just thinking about, you have so many choices when you're creating character, when you're creating story.
Yeah.
So why not make those choices matter? Why not actually choose a character that is less understood, or potentially find a topic that you want to explore and put that in? If you have all those choices, why not use some that could make a difference?
Yeah. That's great. I'm glad I asked.
Deep enough for you?
No, very deep. We thought we'd kick it off with a really deep one. I like it.
Can't be all fun and games and Kidlit Club.
No, it can't. It can't. No, that's good. Now, I was going to...
Can I ask you?
Yeah, okay.
Because you always turn it on me.
Okay.
What was the initial question? What inspires you to write?
Yeah, well,
where do you get your ideas from?
Yeah, I suppose all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was sort of thinking about that in the back of my mind when I was listening to you. I'm thinking, what a contrast this is.
What are you going to say?
Because the current thing I'm writing is based on my love for the young ones, my love for Father Ted,
Comedy.
the IT crowd,
Great.
Faulty Towers.
But making kids laugh.
Making kids laugh.
Yeah.
And
so
sort of
not
extreme
everything
characters.
has to be serious and heavy.
No.
It's meant to laugh.
And that sort of influenced what I'm writing at the moment. So yeah, comedies, TV comedies can influence you, but you can get influences from all over the place, can't you?
Eavesdropping on conversations, things that you see around the world.
Comes from anywhere.
Yeah, and stuff you read.
And I get a lot of my creative impulses from a certain report, which we're about to get to.
Here it is.
Here it is. Here's the Rippon Report.
The Rippon Report, where Sally speaks to Amanda Williams, principal of Flemington Primary School.
Hi, Sally Rippon for the Kidlit Club with Amanda Williams, who is an old friend but also the principal of Flemington Primary School. And I thought it would be really great to get Amanda in because we recently spoke with Susan Lamarca from the School Library Association of Victoria, and she was talking about the importance of getting your principal on board if you want to have a teacher librarian at school. And so I imagine that there are a lot of people that come to you with requests about what they think is important. How important do you think teacher librarians are in primary schools?
I think libraries are important in primary schools, and being in an inner city school, it's actually really hard for us to maintain a library system, and that's because of a few issues. Number one is spacing. Inner city schools have very high populations, and what we're finding is that some schools are having to move into library areas just to put classrooms into. So to even have a library in an inner city school, in any school, is a huge priority, but it's also a huge privilege to have in this day. In terms of having a teacher librarian, that is just like the icing on the cake. And at Flemington Primary School, where I'm the principal, we do have a trained librarian. However, she's a volunteer, so it's also about drawing in on your community and seeing what resources you have. Now, I have actually offered to employ our teacher librarian, but she likes to take really nice holidays, so she's decided to remain a volunteer. But I have been in a number of schools where we've been fortunate to have teacher librarians and trained in all of those schools, and they are just a huge asset to any school, and they bring such a wealth of knowledge.
So just to give some context about the school that you're principal of, you obviously every primary school has its own challenges. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of the demographic of your school? Because you have a really rich learning environment, but plenty of challenges as well.
Yeah, every school has its own set of challenges. Flemington Primary School is one of the most exciting places to be in the world, but that's because I'm a little bit biased. But it really is a fun place to be, and that is because it's the diversity that makes it so exciting. So there's 40 different nationalities in our school, and we have students from all different backgrounds, from living in diverse forms of accommodation, some kids living in $2 million houses, and some kids living in smaller apartments, in high-rise apartments where they have beautiful views of the city, but just huge complexity and huge diversity in that school. And most of our students speak English as an additional language, and that is also really exciting to have in a school community as well. Book Week is a huge event in our school. As you know, you've been a few times.
I've seen you dressed as Charlotte.
Yes, yep. Charlotte. I'm sorting out my costume for this year. It's going to be good. So that is a really great way of celebrating storytelling and culture and books. And some of the ways we do that is by having book readings in lots of different language for every day of the week during Book Week. So making sure that we have books stocked in different languages are very important. Another thing to push is to also encourage our parents to tell stories in their language. So even if a parent can't read English, it's an additional language for them, we encourage them to read the same story just by looking at the pictures in their own language, because it's really important for children to connect with their background language. And as you know, we had the Story Peddlers tent, which helped, and in that tent we had stories told in all different languages that were representative of our school. Now, you don't need to have a Story Peddlers tent to do that sort of thing.
You could do that in the corner of the
classroom. You could have it in any way you want, but the Story Peddlers tent was a lovely way of encouraging that. So that is another way of valuing language, culture, but also storytelling. And storytelling is an important thing in any culture.
So before you became a principal, I'm aware that you did work in reading recovery, and particularly working with children that would have learning difficulties or challenges. What are the kind of books that you use with those children, or what are some of the techniques that you use to help kids learn to read?
Okay. So sometimes children who have reading issues or challenges, we should say, they can be put onto a diet of what we call phonics books, or synthesized phonics. I think, however, in reading, it's just like eating. You need to have a really rich diet. So yes, while some phonics books can really help some students who might have some initial challenges with their reading, it's so important to remember that reading is so much more than just decoding what the words are on a page, that with reading it's all about the story. We read for enjoyment, but for students, it's also about reading for learning. So it's important to have not only books that can support us with our reading, and sometimes they're a phonics-based book, but also to have rich books that are about the world around us, and that we talk to our children and to our students about what is the content of those books. Sometimes phonics books really are challenged with the content, so it's important for children to have a rich diet. We don't just have potatoes. That would be really boring every night. It's important to have lots of different vegetables, and hence what I'm saying is a menu of lots of different types of books for children to read as well, not just potatoes.
And so quite a lot of the people who tune into these videos are writers themselves, some of them established writers, some of them emerging writers. What are some of the books that I'd be interested to know, one, what are the things that the kids are really drawn to, what stories do they like, and what do you see as missing? Maybe what books do we need more of?
Gosh, that's a really good question. Judith Russell is a very big favourite at Flemington Primary School.
She's wonderful.
Sally Rippon is another favourite. I personally would like to see more Indigenous books written. So if there are Indigenous authors out there, we have many emergent Indigenous leaders in our school, and it would be great for them to be acknowledged by having more books written around their background, around their culture, but also Indigenous people who are not living in your traditionally Aboriginal communities. You know, we have many Indigenous people living in cities, and how are they represented? We're not all living around Uluru, so it'd be nice to see them represented in storytelling and
contemporary
literature.
stories.
Contemporary stories.
So what are some of the things that could make a difference for helping a child develop a confidence in reading, either from a principal's perspective or from your background as a reading recovering teacher?
Okay. What makes the difference is that you need to know that child and what they like, what they are interested in, and you need to try and marry the text to what their interests are. That is what will make the difference. So that is my response for a child who's struggling with reading, but sometimes you also want to marry a text or some reading material for a child who might be having challenges with their behaviours or with making choices that will support a positive time at school or in their learning. And again, that is around knowing the student and what their interests are. So, you know, it's not about a particular type of book. It is about knowing young people. It is about talking to young people. And better than that, it's about reading yourselves and sharing your interests of reading with young people. Reading and writing and speaking and listening go hand in hand. And I would also be thinking about what are the conversations that you're having at home around reading, around writing, and how do you integrate that into your home life?
Fantastic. And I'm a strong believer that reading is a great way to access and teach empathy. Is that one of the things that you would think is important in your school?
Absolutely. It's important for life. It is about how characters are feeling, what are the, inferring what the characters are thinking, feeling, what they might do, what you might do in that character's situation as well.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us, Nat.
Thank you. It's been fantastic.
That was yet another ripping Rippin' Report, but now it's time for Social Media Watch.
All right, one of my favourite parts of the show, Social Media Watch, where I just take a fine-tooth comb to the internet and try and find some stuff that's happening in the kidlit world.
You find some gold.
I like to think I do. Thank you, Sally. I found some gold again, just quietly. This time round, Serena Geddes.
Wonderful illustrator.
She's a fantastic. In fact, she did Lulu Bell with Belinda Morell and a bunch of other things, of course. And Serena has some really hilarious posts on her Instagram.
I'm looking forward to seeing these.
Yeah.
New for me too.
So she's just released Rosie and Rasmus, which is her first picture book. Yep. Which is going great guns. But on Instagram, she's got a new puppy called Bodhi.
Oh, puppy.
Yeah, so I knew this would be up your alley. Not Billy. No. This is Billy.
There are other pups out
this
there.
is Bodhi. Okay, and Bodhi is the subject of many of Serena's great little cartoons, and I wanted to show you a few because they're very funny. They could be like in a newspaper or something. I reckon they're awesome. So here's one here where she's got, I've been hearing my sport 3-year-old self a lot lately. Mine, 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 mine. Bodhi's been taking all her stuff. Look at the state of this place, the mess you've made. And then she's also got her mess on her side too. So this is called hair product. I think you need a tiny bit just to get the hair out of your face, just a little.
They're so cute.
They are cute. Oh God, what have I been feeding you? Is that happened with Billy?
That.
Yeah. You do know this is a major catastrophe waiting to happen, right? And it's me, woof, 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 when Bodhi's barking in the shower. And today I learnt a valuable lesson about not purchasing cheap poop bags.
Okay.
We've all been there. But I think they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, beautiful drawings.
Yeah, they're
too.
great. And they're so cute and there's so much energy in them. I reckon Serena should do a book about her and Bodhi.
Well, I am now thinking of other children's book illustrators I know who also do cartoons, like Judy Horacek, obviously
Yes.
first comes to mind. So
Mitch Vane does some cartoony
Mitch
stuff.
Vane, Kathy Wilcox.
Yeah.
Who's, the fantastic one, Don't Look Now, what's his name?
Oh, Andrew Weldon?
Yeah,
Yes.
his work is fantastic.
Yeah,
and
it's
he
great.
obviously illustrated the Adam Cici
He did, the
book.
Huckabee Falls series, yeah.
So, yeah, that's got me thinking about illustrators who are also cartoonists.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I reckon Serena should get her book out, Serena and Bodhi. I reckon that'd be great.
Thank you.
So, Serena, get onto that, please. But if you find that stuff funny, follow Serena's Instagram account. It's The Freelancer 101, if you want to check that out.
Cool, I will be.
Great. Now it's time for this.
Our special guest. And on this episode, it's none other than the hilarious Nat Amor.
Nat Amor is here.
Muppet face.
She's doing I thought it was like one of those clowns that move side to side.
No, it's a Muppet. You know how Muppets go like,
Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited about
Good
everything.
work. Is there any Muppet faces in your new book?
Not in this one, but upcoming maybe.
Is there really?
Maybe, I don't know.
A little bit of Muppet talk.
I do love the Muppets.
Is
It was-
Muppets one of your favourites?
Like, I was Muppet crazy.
Were you? Who was your favourite Muppet? Hang on, let me guess. Fozzie Bear.
No.
No?
I'm really surprised you didn't guess because there was this like little test where you had to fill in this thing and it told you what kind of Muppet you would be if you were a
Really?
Muppet.
And
And
who were
my
you?
favourite was the one that I got.
Animal.
Yes.
In fact, I don't know why I didn't say animal from the word go, because
know.
you're animal through and through.
That's what everybody says. I'm surprised you didn't guess.
Well, I don't know. I think I was channeling a bit of myself. I think of myself as a Fozzie Bear.
Oh, you're so Fozzie Bear. Oh my gosh, I'm foreseeing a Muppet episode in our future.
Muppet episode. That should
Because,
be good.
you know, Kate from my podcast, she's a bit of a scooter.
Is she?
Yeah.
She's a scooter. What about Liz? Liz is a tough one to pin down. If you're not quite sure what we're talking about, Nat Amor, not only is she an amazing author, and this is her debut book, Secrets of a Schoolyard Millionaire, she's also a podcaster. I'm sure many people watching this and listening to this would know of One More Page because it's massive.
I hope they know, and if they don't, check it out. It's great. It's about books and stuff.
It is. It's awesome. And obviously it's gone through the roof as well.
It's done really well, yeah.
But that was before. That was before. That was a BSOAFM, and now it is ASOAFM.
Well,
What?
acronyms are not working out with this.
I don't. That was before the book.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so this is your first novel.
Yep.
Secrets of a Schoolyard Millionaire. How does it feel? Like you spent so much time prepping for it. I imagine it's been. You came up with an author platform. For some reasons, you wanted to make sure that you were ready to go when the book came out.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel now that it's all out and it's gone gangbusters and everyone's loving it? Like, is it weird?
It's kind of surreal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I try not to think about it too much because I've just got to just roll with everything that's happening because I think if I actually stopped long enough to think about how amazing the last year has been, I'll actually freak out. And I'll start having like heaps of self-doubt and worry about the second book and all that. So I just try not to think. My answer to everything is don't think too much.
That's my motto.
Hey!
Don't think. No
Don't
one
use
should
your
ever
brain.
think.
It doesn't help anybody. Yeah. So that's, to be honest, that's sort of roll with the flow.
Yeah,
is where
and
I'm
that's.
at.
I think that's very true because I think I talked to you around about the day that it came out, and it was
Yep.
it was a children's book of the month in certain
Yeah.
stores and all sorts of stuff, and it was getting a lot of press and all that sort of stuff. And you said the same thing. I'm not even thinking about it.
Yep.
What would happen if you thought about it? You'd freak out?
Yeah, I think, you know, that little emoji where it's like missing the top of its head
Yeah.
and there's a big explosion coming
Yeah.
out of it? I think that. And like, I mean, I consider myself a confident person, but, you know, I'm human as well. And I signed a 2-book deal with Penguin when I signed for this, and so there is a second book in the work. And if I think about
is.
how well this one's doing,
Yes.
it makes me freak out more about book 2. So there's so many layers to the
Yes.
potential freaking outiness.
So are you saying people should stop buying this book?
I'm definitely not saying that.
Okay. Just wanted
I'm
to
saying
clarify
buy it,
that.
but don't tell me about it. Let's not talk about
Buy
it.
it silently.
Yeah, shh, buy lots. Yeah, no, I just think it's that's the only way for me to kind of tackle it all is just go, just keep doing it, enjoy it, just roll with the punch, they're not really punches, roll with the back pats or whatever you
Enjoy
want
the
to call
ride.
them. Yeah, enjoy the ride, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So, and how long in the making was it? Like a few years?
No, the so funny story is it's actually the second middle grade book that I've written.
Okay.
The first one I wrote because I was writing for TV and screen and film and finding it very restrictive and like getting stuff up was impossible and whinge, whine, TV industry, film industry. And I was like, you know what? I want to try and write a book. And one of the biggest things was like, I could put as much crazy stuff in it and it won't cost anymore. It's still going to be $14.99. You know, it's not going to be $1 million extra to make that scene.
Yeah. Helicopters,
and-
explosions,
yeah,
dinosaurs, whatever
piles
you like.
up, dragons, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. And, you know, part of it's like, can I actually do that? Because, I mean, I think a lot of people say they want to write a book, but actually doing it is not possible for everybody. So it's a bit of a challenge just for myself, but it ended up being, I think, quite sort of self-indulgent. I spent like pages and pages, because in screenwriting you can't describe anything, you know, like it's all so tight writing. So I spent pages and pages describing things, and like it was all over the top and overwritten and all those kind of things.
This was the first one?
The first one, yeah, which is now living in the bottom drawer of my desk.
Soon to come out.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be
Rewritten,
out soon.
yeah.
But what happened was, as I kind of shopped it around, everybody was saying the same thing. They were saying, great writing, but not for us. Or great writing, it was a fantasy novel. Great writing, but we're not looking for fantasy. Great writing, but there was always like, great but, great but, great but. Great but. I like great butts and I cannot lie. And so eventually I listened.
Yes.
And I said, all right, well then maybe I should write a different book. And
This one.
yep, and that one I churned out in maybe 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, okay.
And not 7 or 8 months of like, I'm gonna like go off to a desert island and write. 7 or 8 months of still having a normal job and writing in my spare time and stuff like that. I think the first book I wrote it for me, and this book I wrote for the kids. And I think that's probably the key difference of why, you know, this one got published and has so far been quite successful, is because I changed what I was doing, but I would never take back what I did first, because I think I needed to do it to be able to do that.
Yeah, okay. So you had an audience in mind when you were writing this?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Who were you pitching it to? Like when you were sitting at your desk, who were you thinking of?
Like me and every kid that I went to school with.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I guess it's this kind of thing, like I don't have to, I'm really not one of those people that's like, oh, I'm going to remember back to when I was a child. All my clearest and best memories are from when I was a kid. And like, I know people are like, oh, I've got Peter Pan syndrome. But like legit, I have Peter Pan syndrome. Like I still find the same things funny. I still read the same books. I still watch the same movies. Like I'm up for a tree climb. Like I think anybody who knows me will tell you, and especially people who've known me since I was a kid, I haven't changed a great deal. My handwriting's gotten a little worse. But other than that, I haven't changed a great deal since I think I really discovered myself at like 8 or 10.
Yeah.
And so that age group as an audience was very easy for me to
How do
slip
you
into.
hang on to this youthfulness?
I don't know. I think one of the things that really helps me is that I've never really cared what other people think about me. I've always like, not in the sense that I don't care about other people. I'm very considerate and I care a lot about other human beings, but in a kind of like making a fool of myself or worrying if I look like cool or mature or smart, or I've given up on all of those things. And I think that that is something that I think that keeps you quite childlike,
Yes.
because when you're a kid, your perception of I mean, you still want to be cool and stuff like that, but your perception of it is kind of warped to what, to a kind of kid-like version. And I guess like I never really busted out of that. I really like making people laugh and smile and be happy, but having that element of not caring what other people think allows you to remain childlike, because you can be in the supermarket and sing and dance and and because you don't care what other people think, you kind of get to hold on to it a little bit. And it's not just with kids writing, it's kept me young at heart. It's made me have a really amazing life, because I'm not scared to do things that are risky or that might fail, or like I'm always just like, oh, give it a go, do it. And I think that probably makes me feel childlike.
Sure.
Maybe.
For example, you ran away and joined the circus.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the beginning. So when I finished high school, it was really funny because we actually had this thing called a school colours assembly, which is at the end of high school, where they so you've already finished school and they call back 10 people from that year level and give them an award.
Yeah.
And the award is like a pocket that you sew onto your blazer. Because you wear your school blazer a lot when you finish school.
That's right. I'm always wearing it.
But it's a big honour, so and I got called back, and it's about contribution to the school,
Yes.
your marks that you got at the end, And they were going through and they're like, oh, Kate Smith, she was captain of this and she did this for the school and her TR entrance ranking was this and now she's going to do medicine at Monash and Jo, whatever, she's going to blah, blah, blah and
Then we get
doing.
to Nat.
And then it was like, Nat Amor, she was house captain, she did this and this, and she's running away to join the circus. And the whole school was just like, and I was like, woo. And that's just been me. Like I just want to do as much before my bones give up on me as I can. And circus was a great way to travel the world. So I was moving countries every 6 months because I was working for a hotel resort. I got to do exciting stuff, flip in the air, act
so
like a clown.
What was it that you did in the circus? What was
As a trapeze artist.
You're a trapeze artist?
Yeah.
Wow.
So swinging, flipping, net,
Amazing.
bouncy.
Do you still
catchy.
ever do that these days?
Well, it was funny. I went to visit, so a friend of mine who still works for Club Med where I worked, I went to visit him last year and they had a trapeze there and I was like, I'm going to get up and see if I still got it. And I was quietly very proud of myself because I didn't suck too badly.
Still got it.
Yeah, I still got it. So yeah, if the opportunity arises, I mean, I don't have one set up in my backyard, but if it's around, I'll definitely go back up.
Fantastic. Well, we're actually sitting here in the Penguin Random House offices here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
That child that was up for anything and is still with us, what would she have thought of this occurring, writing a book? Is that something that you as a kid were interested in doing?
Yeah. Look, I think storytelling as opposed to actually writing. Like I loved writing when I was a kid. It was English, creative writing in English was always my strongest subject, as well as like drama and arty stuff like that. But I think like storytelling has always been a big part of my life. So after I was in the circus, I also was in charge of the entertainment for Hotel Resort. So I was creating shows and a 2-week, rotating program. So I was like, 14 different shows and then when I worked in film and TV production, that's storytelling. Yeah. So it's always been a big part of everything that I've done. So the fact that I've written a book, if I was like talking to 10-year-old Nat, I don't think she'd be overly surprised. Yeah, that's good. Except that I had the patience to sit down and actually produce 45,000 words or whatever it is. That bit might surprise her, that I've gained the discipline to do it, maybe. Yeah. But the actual, the creative and the writing side of the things, I don't think she'd be too surprised.
Oh, well.
She'd be pretty happy about it.
I'm sure she would.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the family is such a part of this story.
Yeah.
Are the family based on your family at all?
Nah, they're not. There is a character, so Tessa's older brother is called Dane, and I have an older brother called Dane. And the character has a dog called Butthead, and Dane had a dog called Red Dog. And he's very good with his hands, and he's very good at engineering and stuff like that. And Dane is definitely there's elements that I took, but the rest of the family, no. I mean, for me, it's just me and Dane. That's it. Yeah. Tess is in a family of 5 kids. Yeah. The other kids were kind of just, invented. But yeah, look, I drew on some experiences. Like I was a real hand-me-down kid when I was a kid. Like I got all of Dane's stuff and nothing. When I got something new, it was like massive. So definitely that. There's some elements like I didn't even know there was music past the 70s until I was like 13 and got my own tape recorder because mum and dad only listened to Gold 104. That's the only way I got music.
It's amazing reading this book and just all the songs bring back emotions. Was that your intention?
Absolutely. And every song that's in there means that thing to me. Like there's a scene in there where she comes home and the dad is dancing to Handle Me With Care by the Travelling Wilburys. That's my dad's song. Like, so absolutely, and it was very filmic, the book, when I wrote it, and it needed to have a soundtrack. And so, and Tess is she's like so dramatic and such a big thinker that I just imagine her like walking around always having like a soundtrack in her mind, and she always thinks she's in a movie, and so it all worked together really well. But so those elements, like my family, that like we have a soundtrack to our lives, and none of the songs come from after the 80s. So that part's probably quite in common with my family.
And what's good about it is I'm reading this with my daughter, and when the songs are listed, she'll ask me to Spotify them. And so we'll actually play little snippets of it while we're reading.
Well, can I tell you something? And this is you're getting no, I haven't told anybody this.
Exclusive.
Yeah, an exclusive.
Wow.
Tess is releasing a Spotify playlist that has the entire soundtrack of Secrets of a Schoolyard Millionaire on it.
That?
So that means that you can read, and instead of you having to find them, you can just have the Secrets of a Schoolyard Millionaire playlist there, and you can play each song that appears in the book is going to be on the playlist in order.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. Okay, one last thing I want to ask you is obviously you play a lot with the morality of having a lot of money and what to do with it and all that sort of stuff. Did you go into it thinking, I want to sort of play with this question of what's right and what's wrong and following rules and all that sort of stuff? Is that something you really wanted to dig out of this story?
100%. Yeah. I wanted to play with the idea of, and this is one of my favourite things about since this book has come out, is people are like, oh my God, it's so funny and I expected that from you, but it's really tender and has a moral. And I'm like, oh, you didn't expect that from me? And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to have this book that was all bling and this idea that it was going to be just about kids being like, woo, and going crazy with money, and then like sucker punch them with some really heartfelt moments and some questions. And like the idea is that I want kids, and it's really funny when I've started doing school visits, and one of the things I do is I run a pitch desk. So there's a pitch desk in the book where kids come up and they say what they want to spend money on. And I do a live pitch desk with the kids. And you ask the kids what they would do if they had $1 million. And the responses are always like we had one the other day that was like, I would be president of the world. I'm like, sure, I don't know how $1 million is going to get you that, but sure. Through to donating to charity, buying a Lamborghini with like 12 Nerf guns attached.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so cool.
I'm on that kid's side.
But it's really funny because then when you go through those and then we have like a cheer-o-meter and the kids vote for who's going to win, it's always the kids that are donating to charity that are the ones that everyone applauds for. And so, but when and then I'll shoot like a popper full of money and the kids like, money! And they're so money, but then when they actually sit back and think about it, you talk about, it's great to have money, but what you can do with money if you have it and you have more than you need, let's have a think about that. It's so, and it also, I have a lot of respect for kids. I have a lot of respect for their understanding that it's not just good and bad. It's not just black and white. There's a whole lot of grey in between. And for those who have read the book, the very last thing that happens in the book
is this a spoiler?
No, I'm not going to tell what it is.
Okay.
But that thing that happens, you can have long discussions about whether that thing is right or wrong. Okay. And there's no definite answer. I don't think you can, some people will say that this particular person did the right thing, the wrong thing, it was wrong but for the right reasons, it was right but for the wrong, whatever, but that's the kind of conversations I wanted people to have and give it, and let the kids, I wasn't telling the kids what they should do with the money or what's right and wrong. I was just being like, hey, there's lies and there's truth, and then there's this whole area in between that's covered by, you know, white lies and little truths and you know, make believe and all this kind of stuff. And kids know it, and I think we need to trust them to explore that and think about what they would do in the same situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I completely agree with you. I fell into the trap of thinking this is going to be just wall-to-wall, hilarious, crazy, wacky action.
Which it is.
Which it is, absolutely. But as you rightfully say, there is a lot of heart in here.
Yeah.
And the characters are so three-dimensional, so really well fleshed out. The family, I love the family. I love the dad who's always struggling to get them all at the dinner table. I relate to that so much. But it's so well done, and you deserve all the success you've had so far.
Thank you.
I hope the rest just goes through the roof as well. I know you're working on some more. So well done. But to leave us with, now that I've said the nice things, can you do one more animal impression for us?
Sure. Okay. Would you like a...
No, animal from the Muppets.
Oh, I thought I got
Not
to
random
pick an
animals.
animal.
Okay,
I
you
do
can
a
do
really
one of
good
each.
monkey,
Do one of
though.
each.
Can I do my monkey?
Do a monkey. I think Penguin's going to kick us out.
That was in the Penguin office. Everybody just looked at us the really weird. Sorry, everybody. And Animal the Muppet goes like this. You're welcome.
I don't know her.
I don't know him. He's so weird. Who would hang out with that guy? How embarrassing. Sorry. Oops.
Secrets of a Schoolyard Millionaire is out now.
Great interview, Adrian.
Oh, thank you, Sal.
Good to hear from Nat as well.
Yeah, no, she's a bit of a legend.
Yeah.
So great to catch up with Nat from One More Page,
Yeah.
our friends in the Kidlit podcasting world, and they
Great
do a great
podcast.
job every other week to us.
Yeah.
So make sure you catch them. They're awesome. We love them.
We do.
It's time for our giveaway, and we're going to give away Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Meltdown. Okay, there's 2 copies to be won, and all you have to do to enter is this. Head to either our Kidlit Club page or group and comment on this episode's video with the answer to the following question. And this is inspired by Serena Geddes and her dog Bodhi.
Yeah. Which is your favourite children's book starring an animal?
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite?
Starring an animal?
Yeah.
I should have thought about this. But I am partial to Pig the Pug.
Yes.
Because Pig is hilarious.
Yes. Do you know Paddington came to mind? But
Paddington,
it's not-
yeah, he's a bear.
Yeah, but he's a toy. That doesn't work, does it?
I'd accept
No.
that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're
Okay,
in.
So I can be a toy animal.
Yeah, give me a toy animal. Get your entries in. Winners announced Friday, and it's a game of skill. So impress us with your answers, please.
We do take raps.
We do. Rapping about animals.
Haiku.
Yeah, haiku.
However you want to
Sakudo,
deliver.
whatever you want to do.
Cartoon.
Yeah, a cartoon would be great, actually. Get on board. All right, thank you for joining us for another Kidlit episode. We'll see you next time.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.